Okay, good morning and good luck to us. Yesterday we saw a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir whether Malika would go ahead and be mitar midei nevela. In other words, if you have a bird, and that bird you go ahead and you do a Malika on the bird. So just like shchita is mitar midei nevela, so too with Malika. Question is if the bird is a treifa. Let's say the bird is a treifa. Would it be matar and take off the din of nevela? Because you can't eat it. The malika is not matering it. So says Reb Meir, yeah. Says Reb Meir, it does. Says Reb Yehuda, it does not. The Mishnah assumed it was a kal v'chomer, that it was a kal v'chomer. If shchita does for an animal, it should do for a bird, and just like shchita is the mata, malika is the mata. And Rabbi Yossi claims said dayava la min adin. It should only be a din in shchita, but not in malika. And Rabbi Meir, of course, agrees with the din of dayai. So therefore, we brought a pasuk. We brought a pasuk that said zois taras behema va'oif, where the Torah made a comparison to behema and oif. What was the comparison? Just like the shchita of a behema takes, if it found to be a treifa, takes off the nevela. Hu adin, the malika of a bird, would go ahead and take off the din of nevela. That was the comparison, the hekesh that Rabbi Meir made between what? Between oif and behema. That was his source. What was Rabbi Yehuda's source? Rabbi Yehuda's source was the pasuk. It's the pasuk says, and this is important, as everything else is important. The pasuk says, "V'chol nefesh asher toichal nevela utreifa be'ezrach." So this pasuk in Vayikra Yud Zayin is discussing oif. And it says the lashon of nevela and treifa. It says the lashon of nevela and treifa. So there's a comparison between the two, between nevela and treifa. And this parsha is the parsha of the guys of nevela of an oif. Nevela of an oif. This is important. So nevela of an oif. Rabbi Yehuda went ahead and learned out. He learned out that just like a treifa, a nevela doesn't live. A treifa mamanavshach. If it's going to live, it's like an nevela when it dies, and if it doesn't live, it's an nevela while it's alive. So what must the comparison be? The comparison must be to compare a treifa that's shachta that still has the din of nevela. That a treifa sheshachta. No, so guys, look, you have the pasuk. It says, look at my fingers. It says nevela says treifa. You're saying that this treifa remains in nevela. When does this treifa remain in nevela? When you shecht it and you find it to be a treifa. And then has it in a nevela. That was Rabbi Huda's limud. Now, here's where the Gemara goes off and gets difficult. The Gemara now is assuming if this is a limud, we have a similar limud by Chelev, where it says Chelev nevela and Chelev treifa. So, if it holds true by nevela sa'if, the two psukim we have to know, guys, are nevela sa'if and the velas of a behemoth. So in other words, I have a very difficult chart over here, right? And just to look at the beginning of the chart, we're going to begin the chart with the following premise. Nevela Treifa from Oif, the Parsha Nevela Treifa Oif teaches me that if you shecht it and it found to be a treifa, it's tamei. This is Rabbi Yehuda Shita. Guys, good? You see it? You shecht it, found to be treifa, tamei. Could you see this? It's clear? Okay, now, the Gemara now is going to say, if that's true, what about this pasuk? You have the chaylev of a nevela and the chaylev of a treifa. Right? Now, if you're going to tell me that you have the chaylev, now here's the limud should be. Treifa sheshachat, the chelba should be tahar. The chaylev, if you shech the treifa, if you shech a treifa that is slaughtered, the chelba, the pasuk says, fellas, that this chaylev is the exact lashon of the pasuk. I should have written it down. The chaylev nevela v'chaylev treifa yaseh ye'aseh l'chol malacha v'oicha lo yisachlu. You could use it for anything, but you can't eat it. So the pasuk's telling me that the chaylev of nevela treifa, you could use it. Good, guys. When you use it, it means it's tahar. Yes. So look at B. The chaylev nevela chaylev treifa is tahar. So now, a treifa that you shech, the chaylev should be tahar. Now, what's the inference then? It must be that the treifa itself is tamei. It must be, guys, that the treifa itself is tameh, or else why would you need to tell me that the chaylev is tahar? If the animal is tahar, of course the behemoth. If the behemoth is tahar, of course the chaylev is tahar. So it must be teaching me that the behemoth is not tahar. So what does that mean? That if I shech the treifa, I shech an animal, and I find that that it's a treifa. I find that it's a treifa, right? Then it's going to be what? It's going to be tameh. But it's not true. Rabbi Yehuda would agree by an animal. He just disagrees by a bird. But by an animal, he agrees it'll be tahar. So Memela, here's my problem. My problem is, if I learn that limud by nevelis oif, I'm going to have to learn the same limud by chaylev of treifa. And then it's going to lead to a problem. So what I'd like to do is go piecemeal. A little bit over here, back to the chart, piecemeal back and forth. Or else I could just read the Gemara easily, and we'll end up concluding that Rabbi Yehuda needs the pasuk for something else at the end of the day. But again, we're going through the motions of comparing Nevelis Oif to Nevelis of Chalev. So now, start picking it up from Amalei Rav Shizvi, parallel to the Taisus of Chi'ezah Torah Shavat Behema. Ela Me'ata meaning, if you're going to darshan Nevela Treifa, that the Malika of an Oif, and it's not Matar Midei Nevela, it's going to be Tameh. The Chsiv, the pasuk that says, the Chalev Nevela, the Chalev Treifa, that says that Ye Asal Chol Malacha, you could do anything with it, for Achal Sachlu, but you can't eat it. Hasanami Nema, say the following. Im Treifa Chaya, Hari Nevela Amura. Im Treifa Ena Chaya, Hari Bechal Nevela, while it's alive. El Lehevi, Treifa Sheshachta, Shechelba Tahar. The treifa that you shecht, the chaylev is tahar. Now, when you had to tell me the chaylev is tahar, fellas, it must be the animal's tameh. When you had to tell me the chaylev is tahar, it must be the animal's tameh. It says the Gemara, mechlal dehi tameya, mechlal that the animal is tameh, the treifa. Ivram of Yehuda Marav, v'mila mastis and tana, v'chiyamus min ha-behema, when it says min ha-behema, Mixes behema mitama, or mixes behema ein mitama. Ve'ezu zu treifa sheshachta. That treifa sheshachta, that it's tahar. The treifa that's tahar. So memela, this limud by chalev is not a good limud, guys. This limud by chalev is not a good limud. Because look, your inference is going to be that if the treifa is shech, the chalev is tahar, it must be the meat is mutter. And there's no way that Rabbi Yehuda holds that. He agrees the basa must be. So therefore, the limud, this limud that you wanted to do from here to here is not a good limud. So what's the limud we're going to learn? Step 3. What's the limud? There must be telling me a din in the chalev of a tameya, an animal that's tameh, the chalev of a mule, the chalev of a pig. Right? Okay. So what's the chiddush? Only the taradika behema is the chalev tahar. Only a tamadika behema is a tahar, but not a tameidika. Good? Now, here's the Gemara, guys. If we're switching the limit over here, then we're going to switch the limit over here, and we're not going to have a source of Rabbi Yehuda. If we're switching the B, then we have to switch to A. So therefore, let's say, we'll exclude oif tameh from tuma. We'll exclude an oif tameh from tuma. Why? Because the chaylev of tameya is tameh, since only behemoth tahar is tahar. Let's see it inside. Ella treifa mi boile, we need a treifa, lemute tameya, to be a non-kosher animal. When is the chaylev muta? Mi sheyesh b'minay treifa. When it's shaykh to be a treifa, then when it's the chaylev will be muta. Yatzazu, this will exclude she'ein b'minei treifa, an animal that is not a treifa, like a pig. Even if the treifa is a pig, it's a pig. So Hanami, here too, by A, guys, by A. Hanami, here too, by A, by Nevelis Iftar, Lemute Iftame. Let's say it's Lemute Iftame. Guys, look. At this point in time, by B, the chaylev is coming to mitama, the chaylev of a pig. You over here, you got it? Guys, B. At this point in time, look where I'm circling. the limud of the treifa is to teach me that it's going to be mamayit a, a pig. A pig is chaylev is going to be mutter, usser. So now, if that's the limud there, the limud would be over here. Nevela of a treifa oif would be a vulture, a condor. And now we don't have a source for Rabbi Yehuda's din. Rabbi Yehuda's din is that a oif, a malikas of an oif is not mitahar. If you want to bring it from this pasuk needs to teach me a condor is tameh, that the chaylev of a condor is tameh. So right now we don't have a source. Therefore, let's say point 4 will exclude an oif tameh from tuma, right? We'll exclude that. An oif tameh. In other words, I needed to teach me that. So let's see inside. That is chaylev is tameh. Says the Gemara oif tameh, and therefore I don't have a pasuk. Says the Gemara oif tameh Rabbi Yehuda min nevela nafkala. He's got another pasuk. Number 5. Rabbi Yehuda learns this from the Vela. Guys, look at the board. He learns number 5. He learns from the Vela. Good. Now continues on. The Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Yachal tein nevelas oif tameh mitama begadim beis abliya. I might think a dead condor would go ahead and be mitam beis abliya. Tamid loymar nevelu treifa lo yochal. It says nevela treifa yishanit. Misha yisura mishum bal toichal nevela. Only something that there's an issur of eating it because it's nevela. Yotza zeh would exclude a condor. Shein yisura mishum bal toichal nevela. It's not us to eat because it's dead. El mishum bal toichal tameh because it's a condor. You can't eat it, right? So therefore, that's what I'm going to use that for. Okay. Says the Gemara Hachi. If that's so, if you're learning from the chaylev of a tameya from the vela, what would I use treifa for? Hainami. So what would I use treifa for? Says the Gemara Hainami. Typically, treifa you need for the chaylev of a chaya that it's tahar. Typically, in the chaylev nevela, misha asur mishum toichal chaylev nevela yatzu shein yisur mishum bal toichal chaylev nevela ela mishum tamei ela high treifa. So what do you need the treifa for? We needed to include a chaya, so that the chaylev of a chaya is asar. Salkadait, I mean, I would have thought misha chelboy asar ubesar mutta. When is what? Something, an animal that usually the chaylev is asar and the bus is mutta. A regular cow dies, then the bus becomes nevela and the chaylev becomes mutta. Yotzazu, it excluded deer. Shechelbo ubisra mutta, because a deer, right, is mutta. So maybe I need that to tell me that it's asar. Some amalei maishna tameya the ein chel b'chalak mibsara. What's the difference of tameya, a pig? There's no difference between the chaylev and the meat. Chayinami ein chel b'chalak mibsara. There's no difference between it. So you don't need a pasuk, since it should be no different than the meat. So you shouldn't need a pasuk. Okay. Says the Gemara, it says that what? You can't eat it. But a chaya you could eat. Ella, we're going to have to conclude. Rabaya. Okay, so now we're at which point in time are we? We are over here. Ihachi, just like the Of Tameh is, okay, we're going to be up here in a second. Rabaya, Treifa, the treifa itself, the treifa by the chaylev guys, itzrich shleitayma hoylu tameya sura mechayim utreifa sura mechayim. Since a pig is us in its lifetime, and a treifa is us in its lifetime, ma tameya chelbay tamei, just like tameya the chaylev is aser, av treifa chelbay tamei. I would say just like guys, look at number 9. Just like the oif tamei is asa mechayim. A treifa mechayim is also asa, so therefore the oif tamei is not mitama. So to treifa, right? I would think it's also not mitama the chelva. Kamash malon that what when that treifa is tamei, so it's not extra to teach me Rabbi Yehuda's din, right? So I need this treifa asur mechayim atmei a chelva tamei af treifa chelva tamei. Ihachi hainami boil shleitayim a hoyel v'oif tamei asa b'achila treifa asur b'achila. Ma'oif tamei eina mitama af treifa eina mitama. So we got 2 questions. If I need treifa to teach me that it's tamei, because you might think it's tahar, I can't use it to teach me that what Rabbi Yehuda's din, that they can't learn the treifa from tameya how to this din. Just like oif tamei, just like oif tame is asa mechayim, and treif is asa mechayim. I'll say just like oif tame is not metama, right? Oif tame is not metama. So too treif, because no din of nevela by oif tame, guys. I say so too. A treifa is not metama. Kamashma on the pasuk of treifa to tell me that it is tame. So if I need the pasuk treifa to tell me it's tame, I don't have an extra to teach me that if you do a malika on a bird that it's tame. In other words, I don't have a din for Rabbi Yehuda. And secondly, v'oy mi ikal melech treifa mi tameya tameya lo hois l'shasa kaisha treifa lo shasa kaisha. You can't learn treifa from Tameya, because Tameya, a pig, never had a shasa kosher, where treifa did. So it's for those two reasons. The reason that that an oif mechayim is asa, treifa mechayim is asa. So I need a pasuk to tell me there's a difference between treifa and a Tameya, and indeed you can't compare the two. So for those two reasons, it must be the treifa by oif we're going to use for something else. What are we going to use it for? A din of issa chalal issa. Okay, this chart was probably just good for me and made everything a little muddled for you. But I just wanted to go back and forth to show you the back and forth of what's going on here. The bottom line is, right now, the treif is oif, right? The treif of oif, we needed to tell me another din. So Rabbi Yehuda doesn't have a source. Says the Gemara. Ella, let's see. Just read the words. Void. Mikal lemela treifa mi tameya. Tameya lo hois l'shasa koisha. Treifa hois l'shasa koisha. The chitem a treifa mi betin ma'ikal mema. What are you going to say? A treifa that never had a shasa koisha. Says b'mina miya ikal. Most in the species, most often that the treifa is not mi betin. It comes at a later point. So it had a shasa koisha. Ella amarava. Ella amarava. Hatoira amar yavai issa nevela. It says, guys, you know why it says the pasuk? It's putting together nevela and treifa to teach me the din of Issa Chalal Issa. And usually, if you have an existing Issa, can you go ahead and make an other Issa on top of it? So it has to be the Issa Koil Issa Moisif. It says over here the following: Yava Issa Nevela v'Yachal Issa Chalev. That I'm using the pasuk of Chalev to teach me, just like it's Chalev. It says Nevela. So don't say, guys, it was Chalev. It's Asa. It's in Issa Koris. Nevela can't be Chal, right? Nevela is Chal. Yava is a treifa, v'yachal is a chalev, and the animal turns out to be a treifa. There's two. No, so if you eat a chalev, you'll be over on two isurim. If you ate the chalev b'shoigeg, you'll be over on chalev, you'll be over on nevela. You'll be over on chalev, you'll be over on treifa. The tzricha, you need to tell me both. The yashmin and nevela, mishum the mitama. Nevela is with tama, therefore the chalev is asa. In addition, aval treifa, that's tahar, a maloi. The yashmin and treifa, if you tell me treifa, mishum di surim mechayim. It's, right, and therefore it's different schal in the chalev. Avon nevela, that's only afterwards. Emelois tzricha. So therefore, what? That's what you need the nevelas oifo, guys. By chalev. So again, comes out like this. At the end of the day, this pasuk you're losing chalev treifa to tell me that the isin nevela is schal and chalev, the isin treifa is schal and chalev. Got it? That this in the Vela Schal and Chalev and the Issa Treif is Schal and Chalev. That's what you're coming to teach me. But it's not coming to teach me a din in the Chalev of a bird, whether it's Asur or Mutta. That's what it's coming to teach me. Okay. Remeya, high Treifa, by the first one, by the birds, my Ovidlay. The Pasuk A, what does he use it for? Mi boile, he needs a lemute shchita, shehi lefnim. That you shecht an animal inside, a bird inside. You're supposed to do malika. Guys, you're supposed to do malika, but you don't do malika. You do shchita. That is why it's kosher. That meaning that the bird it's not a kosher carbon, but im olu lo yardu. Will not be matama. He needs it for that. Rabbi Yehuda, now Rabbi Yehuda, who uses the oif treifa shenischa metame minay lemayet shchitas kachem b'fim. He uses that pasuk to teach me a treifa shenischa metame. In other words, Rabbi Yehuda never went off this, fellas. Fellas, I think this would be a very good summary. We dis- we Here's how we wanted to destroy this by saying the following: if this is used to teach me this, then this has to be used to teach me this. Once this can't be used to teach me this, obviously this can't be true. We ended up that this is teaching me a whole din of Issachar Alyssa. And Mamela, this stands true. So the pasuk of Nevelis Oif is to teach me that if you shech and find it to be a treifa, it's tameh. That stands. We're asking, what does Reb Meir do with this? Reb Meir uses it to tell me a shchita that's done inside is moitzimidei nevela. That it's now. Fred the Gemara, if Reb Yehuda uses this to teach me that you shech and you find it a treif, it's tameh, how does he know a shchita inside that it's not matama? How does he know that din? In other words, the din that Reb Meir learns from there, how does he know it? So again, basically, guys, I'm giving you the Gemara without the pitchkis. The Gemara's Reb Yehuda's said din A, and the Gemara asked, well, if he says din A, he has to say din B, and we proved din B can't be true. So then we said din B is going to be used to a totally different din of Issachar Alyssa. So din A could be true. What did Reb Meir do with the pasuk of din A? He used to teach me shchita inside. If Reb Yehuda uses din A to teach me that Malika does not take off the nevela, what does he do with shchita inside that does take off the nevela? Because he's moided by shchita. Good? That's what we're holding. Was that a good summary? I think so. It gives you a hagdor of what we just did. Says the Gemara, Reb Yehuda, who uses it to teach me that nevela's Malika of oif treifa is not mataher, where does he know that what? Where does he know that you shecht inside, it takes off the nevela? On that, the Gemara answers, treifa achrina ksiv. The pasuk in Vayikra says, nevelu treifa lo yoichal l'tama ba. So there's another treifa over there. That treifa over there teaches me the din that it's, if you shecht in Nazara, it's not tameh. For Meya, what does he need two for? Chad lemute shchita shilif nim, chad lemute oif tameh. And one, that it's not metama b'beis habliya. One is to teach me that what? One is to teach me a malika of a shchita of an oif, and the other one to teach me the malika of an oif tameh that it's not metama. That an oif tameh is not metama basically. Now, guys, the chiddush is again oif tameh. You might think there's no nevela outside, but maybe there's nevela inside. Kemash Malon, that no, only one that could become a treifa, and this can't become a treifa because it's a kandor. Rabbi Yehuda min nevela nafkale. Rabbi Yehuda learns it out from something that's asa mishum nevela, and not asa because it's a kandor. Rabbi Meir hay nevela mayovelei. What does he do with this nevela? He uses it l'shir achila b'kazayis. What's the shear of in the throat that mitame, guys? When it says tumah is bebeis habliya, what's the shear of tumah? It's the achila of a kazayis. Get it from the first pasuk that says v'chol nefesh asher toichel nevela v'treifa. It says that lashon. Why do you have to use the pasuk? Nevela treifa lo yoichal tamaba. We have a pasuk that says v'nevela nefesh asher toichel. We have a pasuk by oif tahar. It says lashon tachel. So once it says oichel, it's under the same tumah should be under the same gedorim as what as achila. Kazayas. Why say it twice? Says the Gemara. I'll tell you why. Because pras. Now you need two chidushim. One, that the level of tumah by of achila that be in your throat is the same amount and the same zman. What's an achila? The toich de achilas pras, the time it eats a half a loaf of bread. We say the 3 to 9 minutes, right? So therefore, you'd have to be in your mouth for that period of time. If it's not in the mouth a longer period of time, then it would not be mitama, because it's not achila. Now, why would you think it's different that it can be in for a longer period of time? Said there's a tremendous chiddush by guys, by a dead chicken. If you have a dead chicken and you eat it, if you touch it on the outside, it's tahar. It only becomes tummy when you put it in your mouth. That's a tremendous chiddush. A dead chicken that never had shchita, you touch it, you're not tummy. Goes in your mouth, it's matami begodim. So I might think, since it's so different Le'inyan that, I might think Le'inyan the shear, it's a longer shear of Kedei Achilas Pas. Kamashmalan, the extra Lo Seichal to tell me no. It's the same Hagdora as what? As Achila. So I might think V'chidishu Yosim Kedei Achilas Pas Nami L'Tami Kamashmalan. Okay, that ends the machlekes between the two. So to summarize, if you go ahead and do malika on an oif and it turns out to be a treifa, says Rabbi Meir, it is tahar. We learn now a comparison between oif and what, and he learned the comparison between oif and behema. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it is tamei. It's tamei. Why? Because he learns out from the vela that it remains in the vela. Okay, what it was. We then said if Rabbi Yehuda makes that drasha, what's he going to do with the drasha of chelev? And that was the crux of the difficult part of the share. You know what he's going to use the chelev for? The din of Issachar Alyssa. The din of Issachar Alyssa. So now everyone's held serve. Okay. Now we're going to go take that pasuk of the chelev and analyze it for itself. We're going to take the pasuk of chelev and analyze it for itself. Again, so the parts of chelev that we have to know is so chelev nevela v'chelev treifa ye'aseh l'chol melacha. Do anything you want with it. Now here, this guys. The chelev, it's nevela. That means meaning the animal is tamei. But when it says the chelev, you could use it. That means it's what? It's tahar. Again, nevela. The chelev of a nevela is tahar. The chelev of a nevela is tahar, and you could do anything you want with it except eat it. Good. Now, Hanrabana, the chelev nevela, the chelev treifa, the chelev behema tahira kasam medaber. Which chelev are we talking about? That's tahar. Are we talking about a kosher animal or a non-kosher animal? Are we talking about a kosher animal or a non-kosher animal? Now, guys, by behema, there's nevela by both. A dead camel is nevela, a dead cow is nevela. So it could be both. Again, a dead chicken is nevela when it's in the throat. A dead condor is never nevela, outside or in the throat, right? Again, that's what we're giving. So now the Gemara wants to know, when you're telling me that the chelev of nevela is tahar, what animal are we speaking about? Are we speaking about a dead cow or a dead camel? What are we speaking about? Okay. Atoim v'chelev behemet tahira, a cow, hakasim medaber, or iner el chelev behemet tmeya, or maybe what? A camel. So amit. Tir mechal shchuta. We have the idea that if you shecht something, it's mitayr. We know shchit is mitama midei nevela. V'tir mechal chelev. And we have a pasuk telling us that what? That chelev is mutter. Now, when is shchita mitahar, guys? By a kosher animal or a non-kosher animal? A kosher animal. So just like shchita, the tar of shchita is by a kosher animal, hu adin, the special tier of chelev, of mutter, is by a kosher animal. So therefore it's only by kosher animals, not by camels. Makish shetir mechal shchuta b'toyra, it's speaking about a cow. V'loy mitameya, not a camel. Akishatir mechal chelev. So too, when you have the heter of chelev being mutter of an nevela, b'toyra is speaking about a cow. V'loy mitameya, and not a camel. Again, that's one way to go. So again, we have a pasuk that says the chelev is mutter. We know that. Is it speaking about the chelev of a dead camel or a dead cow? We just brought proof it's speaking about a dead cow. Why? Because we find a heter of shchita to take off nevela, and we find a heter of chelev to take off the isra of nevela by chelev. Just like the isra of by shchita is, to take off the nevela is by a kosher animal, who adin the din of chelev being mutter of nevela is by a kosher animal. By klach l'derech su. Tir mechal nevela, v'tir mechal chelev. Now, tir mechal nevela means that there is no din nevela by a non-kosher animal. Makishatir mechal nevela b'tmeya v'lei b'tahira, af kishatir mechal chelev b'tmeya v'lei b'tahira. Now, right now, you should be asking yourself, Lays or Rabbi Stern, how can you tell me there's no nevela by a camel? You just told me there is. Look what's the lashon, guys. Look at the lashon of the words. Look at the lashon of the words. Makishatir oitir mechal nevela. Makishatir mechal nevela b'temeya. So you tell me a camel is not nevela? Guys, you hear the problem? Do you hear the problem? Houston, we have a problem. You got the again. Look at the statement. Just like there's no nevela by a tmeya. So the answer to the question, guys, it's speaking about an oif tamei. By a condor, there is no nevela. By a dead eagle, there's no nevela. That's what it means. Good. So now, makashtir mechal nevela by a condor, but not by a chicken. Af kishatir mechal chelev mitamei of lebetarasamin. The chiyuv of the nevela of chelev would be by a non-kosher animal, by a camel, and not by what? By a cow. That's the okay. Now, Amid Beis, kishabah b'derech zu, he b'tahira, kishabah b'derech zu, he b'tameya. If you go according to the first way, it's speaking the pasuk of chelev, that is mutter, is speaking about a cow. If you go the second way, it's speaking about a camel. So therefore, Talmud Loimar, the pasuk says treifa. Guys, it says chelev nevela, the chelev treifa. It says the pasuk, the chelev of nevela and the chelev of a treifa, yeyasel l'chol malacha. What does it mean? Mi sheyesh b'minay treifa, aitzi es hatmeya she'en b'minay treifa. And look at me. Chelev nevela and chelev treifa is mutter. You want to know when it says chelev nevela, does it mean a camel or a cow? Guys, when it says treifa, does it mean a camel or a cow? It's got to be a cow, because there's no din of treifa by a camel. There's no treifa by a camel. If a camel can have a million holes in it, it's not going to be a treifa. It's going to be a camel. It's asa. So mela, just like the chiyuv of chelev treifa is speaking about a cow, so too the nevela is speaking about a cow, and we're going to go with level number one. So the nevela of a dead cow would be mutter. The chelev of the chelev of a dead cow, the never shchita, would be mutter. The chelev of a camel will be tamei, just like the camel. Good. Now, what about a chaya? A chaya, the chelev is mutter. The chelev is mutter by a chaya, and when it's alive, and after it's dead, it's mutter. In other words, it's unique. You could eat the chelev of a chaya. Says the Gemara now, therefore, Oitzi es hatmeya, I'll exclude a camel, shem b'mini treifa. V'lei oitzi es hachaya, sheyesh b'mini treifa. And I won't exclude a chaya that's chelev is mutter. Talmud loymar. So therefore, I would say, since there's a treifa, guys, I would say the chelev of a deer is mutter, because you can have a treifa by a deer. If you have a deer that was clawed by a wolf, it would be a treifa. Memela, using our rule of thumb, if there's chelev treifa, you have chelev nevela, the nevela is mutter, the chelev, right? So, v'lei oitzi, and I would say I don't exclude a chelev of a deer. A deer would have the same thing as a cow. V'lei oitzi, as a sheish mine treifa, tamad loima v'achal lo yisachluhu. The pasuk says, but you can't eat it. Shechel bo asa ubesara mutter. It's got to be the chelev is asar and the bas is mutter. Yatsa chaya shechel bo ubesara mutter. I will go ahead and exclude the chaya because the chelev is bas and mutter. Guys, I'll lump this over here. When the pasuk says the chelev of a nevela and the chelev of a treifa, you can do anything you want with it except eat it. It must be that what? That it's unedible. It's shaykh, the chelev of a deer by treifa, but it's not shaykh to the end of the pasuk, where it says you can't eat it, because the chelev of a deer is mutter. You don't have to treber it; it's mutter. Those are the two differences between a deer and an animal: kisi adam by a chaya, and achilas somemela. Once it says over here, don't eat it, I'm going to exclude it from the first part of the pasuk, that the nevela is tahar. The nevela of a deer is going to be tamei. Because why? Because you can eat it. Let's see it inside. I'll exclude a camel, she'en b'mina treifa. So therefore, the chelev of a camel, of a dead camel, would be a tamei. But I would think you don't exclude a chaya, sheyesh b'mina treifa, because a chaya could be a treifa, and therefore I would think that the nevela of a deer should be tahar. Talmud loymar v'achal lo yisachluhu. That's when the nevela's chelev will be mutter. Yatzachaya, this exclude a chaya, shechel boi b'sorim muta, and therefore, if it's a dead, guys, a dead deer, its chaylev will be asa, will be tameh, like the deer. Omer Rav Yaakov bar Abba l'Rava, Elamiyata, the velas behemoth tohira, hu demitama. The nevela of a cow was tameh. The velas behemoth tameh loy mitama. In other words, look back at the Amud Aleph, guys. I asked you a question. Klach l'derech zu. Second line from the bottom. Zu tir b'chal nevela, v'tir mechal chelev. Makish tir mechal nevela, b'timeya. Just like when you're saying it's not nevela, it's speaking about a timeya, v'loy b'tahira. Afkish tir mechal chelev, it's speaking about a timeya, not a tahira. So now Rabbi Yaakov is asking the question. He asks Rava, nevelis behema tahira, hu demitama. The behema, the cow is tamei. Nevelis behema tameya, then a nevela of a camel, loy mitama. That's what you're telling me, right? Again, if you read it literally, without you know the answer. You know it's speaking about an oif, a condor. But right now, you read it, it sounds like it's that a camel is muta. I mean, it's not tamei. That the nevela is not tamei. Amalei Rabbi told Rav Yaakov bar Abba, Kama sabe shibishtu ba seifa. Many people have made a mistake in the seifa. Ba. Now, seifa, son nevela slave tamei. The seifa is not coming to teach me the nevela of a camel. It's coming to teach me the nevela of an eagle or a condor. And b'nei nachinami, a camel's nevela is tamei. Okay, good. Good is good. Okay, I think we're okay. Rabbi Yochanan, leitir Reb Meya ele b'tmimim. Reb Meya said melika of an oif will only be mitar midei nevela, will only if it's a kosher bird, meaning there's no it's a Torah or a Yonah, and there's no mumim. Aval b'balei mumim that the melika cannot matter it loy. Then it's gonna be nevela. Reb Elazar amar no, afilu b'balei mumim, right? Even b'balei mumim, guys, it's going to be what? It's going to take off the shem avela. So if you did a malika on a balmum, even though it's not matter for achila, it's going to take off the shame of nevela. Itmanami, Amar Rabbi, Amar Rabbi Laza, Matar hoy Reb Meya b'balei mumim, ba'afilu ba'avasim b'tanagoyim. Even ducks and chickens, which you can't use for a bird, only a tar ben yana. So a duck and a chicken is similar to a balmum. It can't be bought as a carbon. Just like a tar and ben yaina, that's a balmum, can't be a carbon. So too a chicken and a duck can't be. So just like Rabbi Elazar says that the malika of a balmum takes off the nevela, who adin the malika of a duck or a chicken would take off nevela. Boy, Rabbi Yamia, you want to have, there's something called egla rufa. Find a dead body, one's closest, you measure, they go to Nachalesan, and you decapitate it. So decapitating is similar to the malika, guys. So Orif A's, you're not doing a decapitation on an egel, on a calf. You're doing a decapitation on a goat. Doing a decapitation on a goat would seem to be similar to doing a malika on a duck. Good. Mahu. Avazim tanagoyim taimamai the meaning the oifis ninu. They're in the ballpark of oifis, and therefore it's mitami de mevela the malika. Aval eiz lav mina de igla ninu. One is is a bakar and one's sign. They're not in the same ballpark. Maybe they are in the same ballpark because they are minim. So it's mashma, guys, as a given. If you do egla rufa, you're going to take off the shem nevela. In other words, if it's an egel and you take it off, you take off shem nevela. Guys, because what's your question? What's the din by goat? Outside, guys, outside. We sing a chiddush over here. Usually midlika is done by a tar v'goizel. If it's done by a tar v'goizel b'mum, says Rabbi Elazar, it takes off the nevela. Let's extend it. Even if it's not a tar v'goizel, even if it's a duck or a chicken, the malika is going to take it off. The Gemara now goes ahead and takes that one more step. What if you do a rifa of a goat? Would it take off nevela or not? What's the shaila? Whether it's b'chal behema. Now, this nems on clearly that if you would do a rifa on an egel, for sure it takes off nevela. Because the whole shaila now is a goat like an egel. But an egel clearly takes off nevela. Where do you know that from? You're at second base now. What's the din of decapitating a goat? First base is decapitating a calf. And just like a calf is tahar from the vela, so to a goat or not. Maybe they're two different things. So the Gemara says you jumped the gun over here. So let's go back and figure out where do you know that the decapitation of an egel is matarit? Says Gemara. Amalei Abaya, I skipped a little bit. Haviyasir Rabdimi v'kamala lahashmaitza. Amalei Abaya, Mechlal de egla arufa tahirihi. Mechal the egla arufa is tahar. Mechal the egla arufa is tahar. Amalei in. Egla arufa, if you decapitate, it's tahar. Amad Rabbi Yanai kapara ksivbei. It says kapara kikachim. So just like kachim, you do malika, it's tahar. So too, the kapara is the kapara for the murder is accomplished with the arifa. Masir Rav Nasan Avua to Rav Huna v'achal loisachluhu. The pasuk says by the chaylev you should not eat it. Ein li el chaylev she'asa b'achila u'muta b'hana. That would only include chaylev that's asa b'achila and muta b'hana, because it's speaking about what? A kosher animal. Chaylev she'shara niskol ve'egla rufa minayin. How do you know where the meat is also asa b'hana? How do you know the chaylev is muta? Usually, guys, the meat is muta. Guys, you're speaking about a cow. So the meat is muta and the chaylev is asa until it comes nevela. What about the opposite? What about one that's always asa b'hana? How do you know that it would be muta? Shar niskol v'egla rufa minayin, that the chaylev is tahar. Tamalayma kol chaylev. V'isal kedaitach egla rufa tahirihi. If you're going to tell me egla rufa when you decapitate it is tahar, he tahira v'chel b'tamei. Right, guys. Why would you need a pasuk to tell me that the chaylev of an egla roof is muta if the egla roof itself is muta? Bishleim, if the egla roof is asa, it's tamei, it's nevela, you have to tell me the chaylev is muta. But if you're telling me that when you do an egla rufa, the arifa takes it out of mechal nevela, so why do you have to tell me that the chaylev is muta? Of course it's muta. If the meat is muta, it's muta. See one more time. Chaylev shall share niskal the egla rufa minayin tamalay mekol chaylev. Fisak daitach egla rufa tahira he tahira v'chel b'tamei. The animal's mutter and it's tar and the chaylev is going to be tamei. And for the Gemara, you're right. Heichad the arif marif lo yitzrich. I don't need the pasuk where you decapitate it. Of course, it's going to be mutter. Ki yitzrich le heichad the shachte mishchat where you shecht it, right? Where you shecht it. So where you shecht it, then you need a pasuk to tell me that the meat, that the chaylev is muta. That muta means it's not tamei. Just like shchita takes the nevela off the egel, so too shchita takes. No, it's you didn't decapitate the egel rufa, you shechted it. So the shchita, you want to kind of the mitzvah egel rufa, but the shchita took it off midei nevela. So just like it took it off midei nevela, it took the chaylev off. So why do I need a pasuk to tell me the chaylev is muta? Guys, I need a pasuk to tell me where the meat is asa and the chaylev is muta. Where the meat is muta, either because of arifa or because of shchita, I don't need a pasuk to tell me that the chaylev is muta. It's not tamei. Like tzricha shemesa. Okay, it's not speaking it's speaking where it dropped dead. So if it dropped dead and the meat is asa b'egla rufa, you would be able. It's tahar. The nevelis, the chaylev's tahar. That's the case. It died. The animal died. You can't eat the meat, and so it's nevela. But be aware that the chaylev will be tahar. Says the Gemara, mechal the mechayim asura. You can tell me mechal. You're going to tell me that what mechal the mechayim when it was alive it's asur. When you're telling me that that the paraduma, egla rufa was asur, how do you see it's asur? In Amrav Yanai gevul shamati v'shachachti. I heard it and I forgot. V'naz mechaverei and they reminded me. Lemeimar ridasan lenachal esan hiya israsa. The time it gets down to nachal esan, where you have to decapitate it, at that point in time, right, it becomes asa mechayim. So therefore it became asa mechayim, and then when it died, you needed a pasuk to tell me that the meat is mutter. Hajj lecha chat hasoif, hajj lecha chat hasoif, hajj lecha chat hasoif.